Welcome back to another episode of Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I am Lauren.
And I'm Tucker.
And I kind of want to talk about a film that was meant to be very serious and very dramatic and ended up being one of the funniest movies I had seen in a long time.
Okay.
So I'll kind of set the scene. It's 1999 New York. There is a rich, successful doctor married to a very beautiful, intelligent woman. And they go to this party. They hang out. They wine and dine with these like upper elites. And they go back to their apartment and they smoke pot. And the wife admits to the husband that a year ago, she had a sexual fantasy about another person. And she sometimes thinks about it. He is so freaked out that he decides to walk all over New York and find prostitutes and old friends and sex cults because he cannot wrap his head around the fact that his wife had a sexual fantasy about another person. And as he tries to get involved with the sex cult, they're on to him, they stalk him, and he finally goes and he's told, hey, stop digging around this sex cult stuff. And he says, you know what? That's fair. I'm going to go back home. And then he tells his wife, and they take their daughter Christmas shopping.
And then what?
And that's it. That's how it ends.
What movie is this?
This is Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's final film.
That's a shame.
I know. Like, it's so... Everything about it is just such a beautiful farce because Stanley Kubrick had been mulling over this story for 30 years. He had read...
What did he come up with?
Yeah. Well, he died during the editing process. And so it's unclear whether the final product is his final vision or not. But, like, the part of what makes it so funny and part of what originally, like, I guess shattered the illusion that this was going to be serious, because my husband and I watched it and we were going into it thinking it's going to be like this erotic thriller, because that's what it's branded as. And we go into it, and there's a very important scene where Tom Cruise is talking to this guy who plays piano at the party he goes to. They went to, like, medical school together. And he meets up with him later, and the guy's like, hey, I have another gig that starts at 2. I'm playing for this weird house party upstate where it's people in masks and a bunch of naked women. So bearing this in mind, when Tom Cruise sneaks into this party, you know, it's ominous. Everyone's in masks and cloaks. There's a guy in the center of this room surrounded by naked women in masks. They're playing some European mass backwards, so it sounds super creepy. And then there's music underneath. And I know for a fact that is music happening in the scene, in the moment. And so when later Tom Cruise is being threatened by the sex cult, I hear the ominous music in the background, and I can't help but think, but the host of this party slipped that guy 20 and said, hey, play something ominous while we threaten this guy.
And this is played by Tom Cruise?
Yes.
That's weird.
Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman while they were married. Yeah. And Kubrick had them, like, psychoanalyze their marriage. There is the scene of Nicole Kidman recounting the fantasy she had. Over the course of an almost 3-hour movie, we see maybe like a minute broken up over that runtime. Kubrick filmed that for a week and would, like, slip Tom Cruise photos from the set being like, how's this make you feel? Does this make you feel cuckolded? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah.
That's, okay, alright, sure.
And it feels like a parody of something that was made 30 years before. Because it's... and I feel so bad because this is very clearly like a passion project. Because you don't work on something off and on for 30 years and not have it be something you care about. But what's fascinating to me is at one point during the 80s, Kubrick thought about making it as a comedy, and Steve Martin would have played the lead.
What?
Yeah.
What?
But the end result is just this melodramatic, borderline campy experience, because at every turn there's just something that's just so funny.
That's weird. That's like, I guess I don't know enough about Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, no, it's funnier than Doctor Strangelove, quite honestly.
But when I think of Stanley Kubrick, I think of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think of Full Metal Jacket. I think of Clockwork Orange. I guess I never... Well, okay, to be fair, Clockwork Orange was very strange. But
Yeah.
but this seems like it's on a completely different, level. Almost like personally attacking Tom Cruise. Also, that's also very weird. Like, excuse me. It's like, I don't know when Stanley Kubrick died, and I don't know when Tom Cruise started acting, but it doesn't feel like there's overlap there. I was shocked to learn just now that there is, in fact, overlap.
And it's Rowie Deschanel has a really good video about Eyes Wide Shut and just how it gained significance just because it was Stanley Kubrick's final film. But yeah, Tom Cruise made a lot of like really weird and interesting movies in like the 80s and early 90s, and Kubrick was hesitant to work with him because he's an A-list star, he's gonna have opinions, and I can't work with people who have opinions. But fair. Cruise was like, oh yeah, no, that sounds amazing, of course I'm gonna work with Kubrick, because I guess at the time it's like, how do you not? And he was just trying so hard to please Kubrick at every turn. He wanted to impress him, and it's not that Cruise does a bad job in the film, it just comes across as really funny. But at the same time, yeah, it does have elements that feel kind of like a personal attack against Cruise, because there is a scene where his character is walking down a sidewalk and you see like a gaggle of guys walk toward him and start shouting homophobic slurs at him at a time when Cruise was trying to like there were rumors against Cruise about what his own sexuality was. Like they thought he married Nicole Kidman just to like prove he was straight, and so it feels very pointed and very bizarre.
Yeah, that's well, all right. Just think, he probably would have been more accepted as gay than a Scientologist.
Oh, absolutely.
Even back then.
Yeah.
I can't believe Scientology still exists.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe Mormonism still exists, but I mean, like, all right.
Nah.
But Scientology is just so out of left field. It's like, I don't understand how people believe it. I don't get it.
I don't know how people go through all of like the initiation rituals. Because I read a book called Cultish, and it goes into, there's a whole chapter on Scientology and the language they use. They had a passage and had like translations within the passage of what was being said and what it meant, and it's gibberish. It's like a mix of really, really heavily religious, like Pentecostal vernacular paired with science fiction garbage.
Okay. I'm struggling to articulate it because I'm incredibly dehydrated, but like for people to just go through with that sort of thing. Have you seen I forget his name, something Ben? He did a 10-part documentary where he wore a spy camera on his glasses and went through the Scientology process.
No.
Yeah, I think he's known on YouTube for slacklining, and then he just did this. And then the grand finale of it was he got a massive projector and projected something on the main Scientology church, and people were starting to like come out and like try to stop him just by being all inquisitive and whatnot, and like, it was a very good, very good 10-part documentary of Scientology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's so bizarre because, I mean, obviously we have like things that become movements and it's just because some guy wrote a book. But the fact that it has such like a chokehold on the people who are a part of it, and that it's so isolating. I think that's part of why it persists, is it doesn't need a lot. It just needs a concentrated handful of people. So if people get just close enough in the orbit, it's a black hole that's going to suck people into it.
Yep. 100%. Yep. And the fact that it seems to pull in such, not stupid people. Tom Cruise doesn't seem stupid.
No.
So how did that happen?
Someone wanted to be an actor.
What?
I've seen some people who wanted to get into acting, and they thought they were meeting with producers and then found out later they were auditioning to be Tom Cruise's girlfriend.
Okay. Oh my. Okay. That's.
Yeah.
That's. I don't think that's what I was asking, but that's more interesting than what I was asking. So. So he gets. People are he's auditioning people to be his girlfriend?
I don't think him individually, but I know with like him and with John Travolta, it was important to the image of Scientology that they were seen as straight, I guess.
Oh, what a weird Tinder. That's so strange.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be one of those things that'd be hard to like find actual like documented sources about it beyond like hearsay. But yeah, no, cults are powerful. I found out about one in Japan called Happy Science, and
that sounds like fun.
It's bizarre. They make anime. They make these sprawling, long movies about the history of their cult and how their cult leader is like an incarnation of either Buddha or Jesus, I forget. And like his wife was supposed to be an incarnation of something, but then she divorced him because he's crazy. And so in like the subsequent movies, it was like, yeah, no, she's like a false prophet. We don't associate with her anymore.
Huh. Okay. God, cults are just. First off, Happy Science. That just sounds like fun. That sounds like a great after school program.
There's a great series of videos from a channel called Mother's Basement that watches the films, and he said that the first video got copyright struck. Like no copyright claim. They just took down the whole video, and people are like, well, this means you're gonna die in their next movie, because they're still making these movies. But yeah, no, cults are so weird.
Mother's Basement is such a threatening channel name. Mother's Basement.
Yes.
Almost as bad as Mommy's Basement.
I do think that would be worse.
Well, what does she keep in the basement? Nobody knows.
Only good boys get to find out.
Exactly. Cults. I don't know. It's very hard to understand how people can get brainwashed like that, having never been brainwashed. I went on a trip. Not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, President's Day weekend. We went to the Wisconsin Dells. And the whole premise of the trip is Cabela's Bass Pro Shop. I'm told they're one and the same. I don't believe that. Is that true? Did they merge? How is that legal? I
don't know.
They're scared of like NVIDIA buying ARM, but they let Cabela's and Bass Pro merge. Okay, anyway, but so you bought it, and the upshot of it was you had to attend a one of those timeshare seminar things.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So here's what. Okay, so there are a couple of things that completely baffled me about this. First off, we went in, not going to buy anything. 100% not going to buy anything. Because why, right? Why would you? So we sat down with it was a one-on-one experience.
Ooh.
Okay, it wasn't a group presentation like I thought it was going to be. It was a one-on-one. It was this cool guy. His name was Dennis. Dennis was great. Dennis was a cool guy. Dennis was definitely manipulative, but I liked him. Probably because...
Did he start over every time you blinked?
No. Yikes. Could you imagine? I fucked my aunt. No, so first off, kudos to the guys for persistence, right? I'm sitting there with this girl I've been dating for 6 months, and he's trying to sell us on a package. Here's how their timeshare works. This is Blue Green Vacations. I'll say it. Fuck them. So you give them a whole lot of money, and they give you every year for the rest of your life. In fact, for the rest of your kids' lives and your grandkids' lives. They give you X amount of points per year, and you use these points to go on vacation. And you can roll over these points year to year, or you could borrow forward. Just talking about it. It sounds like a better deal than a timeshare.
Yeah.
But it's so expensive. And also, that's not all. There are fees, right? There are maintenance fees, which you can waive by either A, expanding the base of the pyramid, or B, you could. Really, all they want is a name and a phone number. And as long as they can talk to the person, you're good. They don't have to, right? But that's that. Yeah. And there are there's some other ways that you could get out of the maintenance fee as well, but they weren't as scummy, but it was still a little iffy. But like by the end of it, so we went in saying we're not going to buy a timeshare or whatever they're offering.
Yeah. And
by the end of it, we're like, still no, but that was far more compelling than I thought it would be. Which was mind blowing because they recognize that a vast majority of the people that come through only wanted a cheap vacation.
Oh yeah.
Boy, is it worth it. It was a little intense, but boy, was it worth it. So even so, excuse me, I'm getting indigestion just talking about this. But like, they understand that people who go in there have no intention of buying anything. They're just like, oh, we'll get through it. We saved a boatload of money on the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're so. Dennis was cool. I liked Dennis. Dennis took us around, showed us the property. It was log cabins.
Yeah.
Very cool. Certainly don't vacation enough to make it worth it. And then we said no to him. And then he got a supervisor over because apparently she was the only one who was authorized to tell us about the please don't go here. So give us a small amount of money. We'll give you an ungodly amount of points for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Right? The trial, right? Which was even more compelling, but still no. And we told them no. And they accepted it. But boy, was he really railing the guilt trip while he was walking us out. Oh, it was, and that was like, come on, Dennis, you're better than this. You're a better guy than this. And what was really interesting, he kept talking about his wife. And I feel like his wife was whatever he needed her to be. She was Swedish. Maybe she was Nordic of some kind. Had red hair. Which already, is that common? A red-haired Nordic? They're mostly blonde up there, right?
They are, but I would imagine that if they're redheads, it's possible the gene shows up more because it's like a mutation.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, okay. So maybe that. And, I think she plays tennis and just all these traits. And maybe he was describing a real person, but something just didn't feel right. And I'm sorry, Dennis's wife, but it doesn't sound like you are as cool as he
Every trait he lists, he's looking for your reaction, and there's a flow chart. If you respond positively, neutral, or negatively, he adjusts based on that.
Oh yeah, and like, and he claims that he used to be a dairy farmer. It's like, but how did you end up here over such a short amount of time? It's it was, I mean, he was very good at what he did, but it was really fun to look at that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How you can get in, brainwashed is a harsh word for a timeshare pitch, but how you can get indoctrinated into something that you don't necessarily want to be indoctrinated into. Every time they sell something, they pop alcoholless champagne. There were 3 pops in the time that we were there, which is over the course of 2 hours, which is sincerely far more than I thought that they would get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so more power to them, but yikes.
Yeah. I'm honestly shocked that, like, well, not totally shocked, but like, timeshares seem like such an old concept, especially with like Airbnb, Vrbo, all of those things. How are timeshares still competitive and
they've
worth
changed the model?
Oh,
right. This whole points thing, right? You're not tied to any Well, okay, you're not tied to any location, but here's the thing: they have a network in the United States. They've like 3 kinds of things, and he showed us the map. First off, I was expecting it to look like a Verizon coverage map to have places in every city, but that's not true. Second off, it seems like their properties were also even further far and few between than the map suggested, because there were 2 other kinds of properties that may have incurred an additional fee. Third, if you want to go outside of the country, outside of their network, you can, and the points still count. The points matter. It's not whose line, but you also have to pay $35 a day. Not great, not terrible. For an international trip, okay, fine.
yeah.
I told him, well, he asked what a dream vacation would be, and I told him, I want to go to Antarctica. There's no way that they could have gotten me to Antarctica. And they said that they would try, but they didn't. I don't think they had ever heard that, because the obvious answer, and they had a little dot at the southern tip of South America, which is where you actually stay. There are no resorts in Antarctica.
Okay, yeah.
That's illegal. So you go, and it's like, guys. Look at us. Look at what you're asking. Just let us go. You tried.
Yeah.
Just let us go.
Yeah. Yeah, I have tough days at my job, but I'm very curious like what the job fulfillment versus self-loathing ratio is for the typical timeshare peddler. Cuz like a job is a job is a job, and if you don't care about the timeshares, I think in some ways that makes it easier to be able to just give the spiel and be moderately convincing, because it is what it is.
The answer to the question you might be asking is they work on commission. So that's what they care about.
Yeah.
So they have to be good at it. It's, quite literally natural selection. You either get priced out of it or you're good at it.
Yes. Yeah. That's wild that timeshares are still like a thing. Never would have guessed.
Yeah. He was very clear. This is not a timeshare. It's kind of like worse than a timeshare in a way, because you're like, it's hard to explain. The whole point system, it sounds cool at first, but then you think about it, it's like, well, when or where would I use these? Your smallest plan still requires me to go on vacation just so much.
Yeah.
And like, that's cool and all, but I'm not going to go to a Bass Pro Shop looking place every time to spend my points without incurring additional cost. Right?
Yeah. Because I mean, I guess it helps that they have like a network of places you can go in the United States, but even so, it's like, how is this a better deal than just going somewhere cheaply?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It truly was, and I was looking forward to it, because I wanted to see what it was like to be pressured, because I've never gone to a scummy used car dealer. I've never been tried to sell a timeshare. I've never gone through any of these experiences, and it was unique. It was novel. It was very interesting to see the tactics that he used, until he went down the guilt trip path, and then that was kind of scummy. It's like, come on, Dennis, but But it was so interesting to see.
Yeah.
So is that how cults work?
Potentially. I mean, I think that the same principle applies, that this Dennis figured you weren't going to say no because of the implications. And it wasn't that he was going to hurt you or anything. But, you know, just
But it's
the
because of the
implication.
implication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get a timeshare.
Yeah. I'm not going to hurt these women. Who said I was going to hurt these women? Obviously, you'd be safe.
It's so good.
The
gosh.
implication.
Yeah.
Maybe timeshares are just cults. Or I use timeshare. That word doesn't mean anything anymore now that I know how these things actually operate. But, yeah. So you, instead of getting a deed to a house a portion of the year, you get a deed to points.
Yeah. And
That's
the whole like vocabulary of like points and stuff, the book Cultish goes through stuff like MLMs or Soul Cycle that aren't cults necessarily, but have like a separate language because that helps with the bringing in process. Because if you hear people using a vocabulary you don't know, that makes you curious. And then when you learn that vocabulary, you feel like you're on the in. And so you have like this sense of belonging that goes with it. And so coming up with jargon is like, that's like step one of trying to build like a corporate brand, is so you can figure out a way to make your language different from all the others.
Yep. Another thing too with the point system is that it's intentionally obfuscating the worth of the product.
Oh, yeah. What is a
Right?
point worth? It doesn't matter.
It also doesn't. It's not actually worth anything concrete.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it probably doesn't correspond to like days or weeks in a year.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I guess it's hard to tell what they're worth because you convert money to points, and then points to days, and the days they all cost something different. Like during the week, it's less than during the weekend.
Yeah.
And time of year also, right? The closer to the peak season they get, like summer, it takes more points. So you lose the translation from money. Now, what is really interesting is that it is perpetual. You drop, what is it? So you drop like 82K for 20,000 points a year for the rest of your life. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, like what? And then you translate that into points forever. How do you reckon with that? And then you translate that into these very small numbers on a day-to-day basis. And if you want to go during the week in Arkansas in winter, right? Like that. It's all the data is there, and so it can't technically be misleading, but it is impossible to parse. It's impossible to understand the correlation between physical money dollars and time spent in a reasonable place in a reasonable time of year.
Yeah. They want people to hear it and assume the conversion is good. Because they're assuming that the majority of people sitting in the presentations aren't going to be able to like James Veitch extract it and play it out to the end where they actually do the math of what things correspond to.
Yeah.
It would be like after the fact, you sitting here now being like, all right, here are the numbers. Because they don't want that. They just want like right here, right now. Because they want it to seem limited. They want it to seem exclusive.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, this is how this is how microtransactions work in general, right? You are obfuscating the worth of something that has no worth.
Yes.
I think in the case of microtransactions in video games, it's even worse.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
no better than an NFT because it isn't actually. It's not anything.
Yeah. It's more, well, and I guess for a lot of games that you already buy, they typically don't have microtransactions, but it's even worse when there are microtransactions in a game that you did purchase. Why would I not get the full game?
I'm about to say something controversial.
Ooh.
Hold on. Here we go.
Yeah.
I think microtransactions in video games are worse than NFTs.
Ooh.
Here's why.
Yeah.
With NFTs, speaking not of the artwork, because the artwork is meaningless, right? You still have an individual receipt.
Yes.
You have something. It's worthless, but it is unique. Now take that part away from NFTs. You are paying to right-click save an image.
Yes.
If you take all the crypto away from it, that's what it is. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's what microtransactions are. If you're in Fortnite and you're paying for an emote, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because they're not unique.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can buy it.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think microtransactions in video games, especially those targeted to kids, are are far and away worse than NFTs.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like a value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of morality, they might be equally morally dubious.
Oh yeah, I think there's like a sliding scale. So you have just regular old microtransactions. You're buying a uniform thing that everyone can buy, but you know what you're buying when you do. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's NFTs, inherently worthless, but a conversation piece, an icebreaker, a fun fact about you. Microtransactions that are based on gambling are probably the worst.
Oh, you mean like loot boxes?
Loot boxes, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Because that's not really regulated, is it?
Nope. Kids can develop gambling addictions, which I would argue are potentially worse than drug and alcohol addictions.
Yeah.
Because you can take away like drugs, you can take away alcohol, and you can have someone detox. If they have a gambling addiction, they still have debt when they come out of it.
Yep.
And that's something that can have ramifications even further down the line. Like, obviously, having someone in your family or someone in your friend group who has like a drug or alcohol addiction, that's traumatic. It's awful. It can affect your jobs, your living situations. Gambling is just so insidious.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's also not seen as a problem. Like, we have tons of like alcohol advertisements, but it seems like betting websites are advertising very aggressively. I've seen way more ads for like fantasy football, betting on
DraftKings.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
DraftKings, just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And
the fact that money into advertisements. Oh my god.
Yeah, so much. And that is being marketed towards children. There are YouTubers, like all of the scummy ones, who do like the loot box things of where they get like luxury goods. And of course it works for them. And they always do the like, hey, if you have a gambling addiction, call this number, whatever. And they keep going. And it's like,
yeah,
no, that's not how this works.
It's no better than the claw machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Claw machine is probably where it all started for people. Like, it's frightening. I once went to a gas station and I was just getting a drink and I had to wait because the people in front of me were scratching the tickets they just bought. So they could see what money they got from the tickets and then buy more with whatever money they got from the current tickets they were scratching.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's the expected value of the lottery is like 0. Why would you do that? You win, you walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, addiction doesn't let you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there are, I think Macau is where it's especially unregulated. And so a lot of like gambling shell corporations will open there because there's no laws about it. Because Vegas is seen as like the gambling capital of the world, but Macau is actually way more of just a lawless place to gamble. And so there'll be like addresses for gambling businesses and it'll just be like a shack. Because that's all they need is just like an address and it doesn't mean anything.
Yep. Yeah. That's,
Mm-hmm.
Huh. How? Yeah, that's, so when I said the crane, the crane.
Oh yeah, claw machine.
The claw machine, yeah. It occurred to me that the SpongeBob episode Skill Crane actually tackles this problem.
Yeah.
Like unironically, SpongeBob tackles gambling addiction. It never occurred to me until now. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Huh. Squidward was a gambling addict. And SpongeBob was the influencer saying, oh, it works for me.
Huh.
Good job, SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It isn't one that's touched on too often. My husband and I watched a show where a subplot was a character was playing like a gacha game equivalent, where the whole point was to just randomly get characters every day, and that actually followed the spiral of spending more and more of your paycheck and spending more and more of your time trying to earn just pixels, not even unique pixels. And it is scary. Not even in a like technology bad way, but in just a, like the way it lets people, or the way people let it consume them.
Can we further generalize, since this is something that we do all the time on this show, can we generalize gambling to a cult? Or do you think it would be easier to generalize a cult to gambling?
I think it depends on the cult, because with some cults, especially that have like a personality at the center of it rather than a concept, with a personality at the center, I do think people gamble every day that they can earn that person's favor or become like the favored member of a given organization. And so they're willing to try their odds every day to be like the best friend. Whereas gambling as a cult, I think that's where casinos kind of come in, where it loops people in on the promise of like, yeah, you're gonna win. Yeah, this is good for you. And it's not until that person is at their weakest where like the cruelty like sets in and latches into them.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay, generalizing one topic to another. Woo. Is it a parasocial relationship, though? Actually.
With cults, it can be.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, the cult-ish cults, not, like, full-on ones, but stuff where personalities are kind of at the center of it, with stuff like Soul Cycle. That was a good example of where it's, like, you're riding with a particular coach, and so people kind of bond with the coach because they feel like they're riding with them all the time. When, no, they're playing a live recording. They're not there with you. You feel like they are, but they're not.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. No, eventually we'll do like steaming pile bingo where we try to hit everything.
There's only 2 spots: parasocial relationships and generalizing to them.
Yes.
Everything is a parasocial relationship.
With a free square, it's a 1x3 bingo.
There you go.
Or a 3x1 bingo, depending on how it orients.
Yeah. Turn the card.
Yeah.
Excellent. But it's very interesting how, if you like, well, I guess that is the nature of generalization. You strip away details, specific things about a concept, and you're left with another concept. You keep doing it. At what point does that become reductive and useless, though?
I don't know. I think philosophers are still trying to figure that out, because I think that's how a lot of philosophical arguments start, is they start with like this very specific thing and they kind of abstract everything until it becomes absurd. And it's like, okay, we're left with these fundamental pieces. Where does that leave us? And is there a like statement, conclusion, or application that can be generated from this based on these concrete pieces that form these patterns that we see?
Well, we got 20 minutes left in this podcast. I think we can figure it out. We can figure out decades upon decades of philosophical thought, and just we can do it. We're good. We can do it. Yeah. To be fair, I also don't know at what point generalization becomes reductive and useless. It does help in. It's a very blurry line. Maybe it's only bad when it is useless, which is also very vague and nebulous, but might be a good definition simply because that would be the whole point of generalization, to be helpful about it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to generalize, just a couple weeks ago, we were generalizing religion to parasocial relationships.
Yes.
But no, I guess we weren't generalizing then. We were drawing parallels. That's completely different.
Yeah.
What
So yeah,
did we generalize recently?
generalizing would be like making blanket statements about things.
Yeah.
It would be the statement that gambling, all forms of gambling, is a cult.
Is that true though? All it takes is one counterexample.
Exactly, which is why in logical arguments you never want to say all, never, always, words like that, because all it takes is one counterexample. But in the world of like public speaking, it's not as impactful if you say in many cases, in most cases, or often, because it like automatically weakens things before the argument really even goes anywhere. So it's like a double-edged sword, because from a looking at fallacy standpoint, you do want to be correct in saying, and like covering your bases and not saying all or never. But from a compelling standpoint, at least from like the public speaking side of it, logicians would probably argue that your argument should be compelling on its own. But
that makes sense. But even then, even in public speaking, there are likely generalizations that are useful so as to help people understand, so that they can understand the concept. And then there are generalizations that are not bad, so as to be misleading or downright false and incorrect.
yes.
So even if you can find a counterexample to a generalization, was it useful or was it harmful? Maybe that's the difference. And while that is still nebulous and subjective, perhaps that's a decent way to handle that.
Yeah. It's in some ways it's almost like the internet adage that the quickest way to a correct answer is not a question but a wrong answer. Where a good generalization people read, they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Whereas a bad generalization, they're like, no, that's not true, and a conversation actually starts.
That's very astute. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that's how things get. That's how you are productive on the internet. You can be purposely wrong.
Yes. Contrarian, the kids might say.
Ooh, someone's doing well on her SATs. Yeah, no, so then, being wrong on the internet. A lot of people do it, but it doesn't always result in helpful. I'm going to say helpful to get around the whole useful argument.
Yeah.
It doesn't always generate helpful discourse. I just watched a video about why CinemaSin sucks.
Oh, yeah.
They say a lot of wrong, incorrect things. They hide behind the guise of satire and what have you.
Yeah.
Which isn't true at all. But people seem to always be like, oh, wow, they make compelling arguments. They're wrong on the internet all the time. And it's not helpful. It's potentially hurtful. So, but they're not generalizing. Or are they? No, they're not. They're not generalizing. I don't remember where I was going with this, but it's I mean, this is a very hard philosophical question. And it's very hard to not end up in a subjectivity dead end.
Yes.
Because words like helpful, words like useful, they mean something different to everyone, necessarily.
Yes. Yeah.
So, there might not be an objective answer to this.
Useful and helpful, even there you could have two very different definitions and connotations associated with those two words. Because helpful, I think, implies positive, where useful is just kind of utilitarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the last bit of like useful discourse, and really I don't even know if it ended up being useful, was there was a guy who said he had just thrown out a tweet of like, why do you come to the bar to read? No one likes you. And people hounded him for a long time. And he came around to it and he's like, you know what? I thought about it. I took a book to the bar and I read. I realized I was wrong. But he also said the very poignant thing that he thought he had to be mean to be funny. And he was genuinely surprised because he realized that he was much more of a mean person online than he would be in real life.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it became like shorthand on the internet to be mean and petty, and that would be interpreted as funny. And so people who don't talk that way in their day-to-day life, they're shocked that people respond to their online content because it's like, that's not me. And people are saying all these horrible things about me, but that's not who I am. And it's like, well, online, that's who you are. And online, that's who you decided to be. And
yeah,
so,
online, that's who, online who you are is who you are.
Yeah.
You don't get possessed by some third world demon, right? Seriously, that's who you are.
Yeah.
Perhaps in a way that's more of who you are than what you are to other people's faces.
Yeah. Because, it is kind of who you are because the guy had the thought, he thought it was worth sharing, and he didn't think there would be consequences. Because in real life, there's like social ramifications. He couldn't have gone up to that person and said that. Because there are too many like social inhibitors. But on the internet, you don't have those social inhibitors anymore, and you can just do whatever.
Yeah, no, there's an episode of House where a man comes in with frontal lobe disinhibition, and he just says the first thing that comes to mind, like he's incapable of lying, essentially.
Yeah.
Not as funny as Liar Liar, but I digress. It's but like because he doesn't have that inhibition in what he says, he sounds very much like someone who talks on the internet.
Yeah.
Again, this is just something that occurred to me. It's very interesting that if we were to all at once ignore that protocol, it would be no different from a chat room.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only difference is you wouldn't have a screen name to hide behind.
Oh, I'm stunned. Like, I'll see screenshots of conversations, and I'm just stunned that even within private conversations, texted, sure, but just the things people are capable of saying, and it's kind of mind-boggling.
Yep.
The confidence. Like...
Oh, the confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people can be wrong with confidence. Less so in real life, but it happens.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's far easier to be an asshole on the internet.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't think people will push back.
Yep.
Because I do feel for the guy when he talked about being like Twitter's main character. And he's like, that's not what you want to be. And I'm like, yeah, no one wants to be the main character.
Yeah. God, the fact that there's even language to articulate that. Twitter's main character. And it sounds not necessarily dystopian, but like a horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
To be Twitter's main character.
It's very... what was the character? Emmanuel Goldstein from the literary classic 1984, where there was just like a minute of hate, I think it was, where they would put his picture up on a screen and people would just like scream and shout obscenities at him for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that was it.
The minute I haven't read that book in so long yet.
It's okay. No one's read that book. Except for the people in Ben Shapiro's book club, apparently.
I almost don't want to read that book again, honestly.
I know. It's there are concepts in it that are great, and it's just stuff gets co-opted and the language gets ruined, and I hate it.
Yeah. Yep. And not only that, but I don't want to read a book like 1984 and be like, oh, that's relatable, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of books that are weirdly relatable, I started reading this book called Severance, and it's about an apocalypse where a fever from a province in China comes over and decimates America. And the book came out in 2018.
There you go.
And it's so weird to know that this was like right on the edge of where we were. And it just
Yeehaw. I don't even know what to say. Just yeehaw.
yeah. I think a little yeehaw is what we all need. And I think a little yeehaw is what can be provided to you by tonight's sponsor.
Yes. Tonight, we have a sponsor. Okay, here we go. Let's see. This episode of Steaming Pile is brought to you by... Nope, can't do that one. Here we go. This episode of Steaming Pile is brought to you by... No, hang on. This episode of Steaming Pile brought to you by... No. I can't legally do any of these, yeah. Okay, so all of our sponsors are Russian. I don't know how that happened. So we can't read any of that. But
No.
we can't take their money. It's fine, though. Don't want it anyway.
Nope.
Not that they have any. Anyway.
They don't. Yeah. Speaking of things that are worthless, the ruble.
Buy the dip. It'll come back. Maybe it takes a couple of years. Buy the dip.
Yikes.
Mad Max. Or not Mad Max. What am I thinking of? Not Mad Max. Jim Cramer. Why did I say Mad Max when I wanted to say Jim Cramer?
I don't know.
Am I okay? I'm trying to drink more water, but I'm just... oh my god, I'm surprised I'm not a raisin. Oh my god. Oh. Mad Max, Jim Cramer. I'm okay, I promise.
Oh yeah. No, it's good.
Anyway.
Wow. I honestly didn't expect to find Russia at the bottom of the pile. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a topic we would broach, but we did get there. Who would have thought?
We got there in the end.
Yeah.
They're always there. Always watching.
Lurking.
Because
waiting.
of the implication.
Yep. See, I feel like that makes it sound like they're going to hurt us.
No one's going to get hurt. No one's going to get invaded. It's a special military operation.
Goodness. So we watched a security meeting. I think it was a security meeting between Vladimir Putin and his spy master. And that conversation was the eeriest thing I had ever seen. Of just the way Putin was like, no, try again. That's not what our stance is.
It's not what we're talking about this week. He jumped the gun, bud.
But
I mean, it's not like he said something that we didn't already know.
Yeah.
Big shock. Just cut it out. Just stop.
Yeah. I am so amazed, honestly, by all of Ukraine as a whole and its response. And the response of Russian people. There have been 1,900 people arrested in Russia for protesting the war, which is insane to me.
That's pretty good.
It is. Yeah, it's bizarre. It isn't, because I know that the threat of Russia invading anything has been a thing for the past, forever. But it's, I don't know. I didn't expect it to happen this way, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've read all the books. Where's it headed? You know all about Russian history. Where's it headed?
I know the history. This like modern KGB thing and his whole setup. I don't know. But the way it looks like he got humiliated. And it just depends on if he's going to turn that humiliation into further aggression or if he's just going to tuck his tail between his legs and go back and follow another famous dictator's example, May 1945.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Alternatively, could go the Mussolini route. I know people would not be opposed to seeing it go the Mussolini route.
Oh, that's not going to happen either.
Yeah.
No, he's going to be fine.
So yeah, well, watching it closely.
Mm-hmm.
Because living anywhere near DC, and some world leaders like, yeah, we're putting our nuclear forces on high alert. I'm like,
that's not ideal.
Do you have to?
Do you have to? Like, why? You're in peace talks now, are you not? Like, why is that? Why are we doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you just not?
just stop.
Just
don't. Well, it would make sense that at the bottom of the steaming pile would be Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. Yeah, if he's not at the bottom of a pile yet. Eventually. That's where we all end up.
Mm-hmm.
He's 69. Nice.
We'll see. We'll have to see where it goes. I am not an expert in international relations by any means.
Not many people are.
Yeah, and some of them gets called the shots.
Yeah.
But, provided everything's still here, we'll have to come back for another episode and follow up on all of this nonsense.
Yep.
So, this has been another episode of Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I have been Lauren.
And I have been Tucker.
And we will hopefully see you all next time.